Yesterday, it was all green here on the bubbles when everyone was euphoric about the ETH ETF. Today, a very different picture. In fact, most bubbles are red, except for the 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗧 and a couple of the outliers, as the market seems to be realizing that maybe all the excitement and euphoria that they had about the ETH ETF may not actually be worth it. And when you take a deeper look at what's about to happen in this ETH ETF, it may actually be an epic fail. In fact, it may do a lot of damage to not only ETH and the ETH ETF, but maybe to a lot of other cryptos. So today I'm going to show you what the market has probably realized and why the market looks like this. I'm also going to show you where the opportunity is, because it's not all bad news. You know, for us, bad news actually means opportunity. So today I'm going to also show you where the opportunities are. So it's going to be a big show today. Lots to talk about. I'm also going to talk to you about the AI sector. We've got NVIDIA earnings today. As you know, when NVIDIA earnings come out, that is like the biggest earnings out there, and probably going to lead to an AI run. So we're going to talk about that as well today. All right, lots to do. Let's get going. So one green day and then one red day. One day of extreme euphoria and then the next day almost like a hangover. So it's like one day we got out partying, we had the time of our lives. We're all so excited about the fact that the market's green, and then we're like, oh shit, what were we thinking? Bang, market goes red. That's what's happening now. We're getting a bit of a consolidation after the huge ETH spike that we had. I'm actually going to show you how you could have actually picked up that was about what's going to happen. I'm also going to show you why the market is doing this, why we've gone slightly down. You can see most of the tokens that went up a lot yesterday are actually going down a lot today. So AIOZ, which was one of the biggest gainers yesterday, gained like 30%, giving back like half of its gains. Athena also giving back half of its gains. 𝗙𝗢𝗙𝗏 also giving back half of its gains. I'm going to show you why I think that's happening, and I'm going to show you why the ETH ETF may actually be a bit of a disaster. It may actually be a bit of a disaster. So I think we do have a big show today. If you're new to the channel, listen, get subscribed to the channel. Trust me, you want to be subscribed to the channel. We do have the Banter bags, which we're going to be giving away. I could give the Banter bags away right now. I mean, I could just like go to the chat and I could go to I could just go to someone, especially someone who says Ryan's looking good today, and I could just give them the Banter bags. You got to be ready when that day happens, when I give away the Banter bags. So make sure you are subscribed. Those Banter bags may be worth a lot of money. If you are already subscribed, let's see if we can beat yesterday's likes. Yesterday we had like something like 2,000 likes by the end of the show. Let's see if we can destroy those today. Let's see if we can destroy those today. People saying I look amazing, fam's looking good today. Also, I know yesterday we were talking about gummy games. And I mean, I want to show you what one of our community members made, and it's a real good sneak peek into what gummy games is. I mean, just have a look how cool this is. So, oh man, yeah, I didn't do very well, but that's got gummy games. That's the beginning of gummy games. It's not going to be a gambling platform or a gaming platform. You're never ever going to be able to. You're never going to have to pay for anything. It's just a way to win. And how it's going to work is something similar to this. Imagine going to a website where there's going to be a lot of games, right? And you'll be able to play these games for free. And if you beat the highest score of the guy before you, so every time the high score gets beaten, you get a gummy airdrop. So if anyone gets 2, they'll get an airdrop. And then if someone else gets 2, so the next person to get 3 gets an airdrop. And you're just kind of consistently going to get gummy updates. So we are working on that. Just a little sneak peek as to what we're working on. Anyway, let's put the meme coins aside for 10 minutes and let's actually get into the alpha of the day. As I said, today is all about consolidation. After a day of euphoria, what the market usually does is it says, okay, we were euphoric, we got a little bit ahead of ourselves, and now we've got to consolidate slightly. If you look on the daily RSIs, if you look on the daily stochastic RSI, the market's telling you on the daily, the market's extended, which means that we could actually get some kind of pullback in the ETH price. If you're looking at it on the long-term time frame, if you're looking at it on the weekly, you can see on the weekly it's still a buy. So it just depends what kind of time frame you're on. If you're looking for a trade for the next week, what the RSIs are telling you, or what the stochastics are telling you, is that for a trade for this week, probably ETH is a little bit overextended. However, if you're looking to buy this for a couple of months, maybe even a year, then it shows you that ETH can be cheap. And that's really what we're going to be talking about today. So markets consolidating. After yesterday's announcement, you can see that yesterday's announcement sparked the open interest and gave it a huge spike. So TradFi went from about $700 million in open interest to about 1.1 billion in open interest yesterday. In the meantime, the preparations for the ETH ETF approval are well underway. You can see that the SEC has announced basically, or has informed the exchanges, it's leaning, it is basically, they can't say, look, we're approving the ETF. Imagine if we get a repeat of what happened with the Bitcoin ETF, where someone from the SEC announces it in advance. Because remember that by Thursday, they have to make the announcement. So you can see the issuers are starting to issue tickers. ProShares is ETHT, Van Eck is ETHV. You can see this, that they're starting to increase tickers. You can see also that the deadlines are actually on the 23rd of, 2020. It says your final deadline, 5/23/24. So 23rd of May, which is actually tomorrow. So all the preparations for the ETH ETF look like it's going to be happening. We have 5 potential ETF issuers that have submitted their amended 19B4s, which they had to do yesterday. They did that all in the last 25 minutes. Obviously, everybody was rushing. Standard Chartered again came out and said that they expect the ETF to be approved. Get this. They are expecting 15 to 45 billion of inflows in the next in the first 12 months. Bear in mind that the Bitcoin ETF has had probably just under 15 billion in inflows so far. So you can kind of see that people are coming out with expectations. And I mean, the charts are basically showing us the same thing. If you look at the Grayscale ETHE chart, basically it's telling you that the ETH ETF is about to be approved. Great. Amazing. We should all celebrate. At least that is what we thought yesterday. But today, the reality of the ETF is actually setting in. And the reality is maybe not what you think. So I want to talk to you about what the reality is around this ETH ETF and why I think that you should trade this one a little bit more cautiously than we traded the Bitcoin spot ETF. I want to show you all the risks. The first thing is, if you look at the charts are pretty much telling you exactly the story of what's happening in the ETF. Remember, the ETF is supposed to be approved tomorrow. If you look at the daily, and the stochastic's telling you we'll probably see some kind of pullback in the ETH price. I think that in general, I think the ETH ETF in the long term is definitely not priced in. I think the market was caught off guard. And as a result of the fact that the market was caught off guard, I don't think that they priced in a full ETF approval. In fact, I think that the market definitely didn't price in an ETF approval. And that is why we actually got this candle over here, which took us from 3,000 all the way up to 3,700 or wherever ETH is. So I think in the long term, we're definitely not the ETH ETF is definitely not priced in. In the short term, however, I think that there is something that people need to pay attention to. And I want to remind you, just before the Bitcoin ETF launched, remember how much anticipation there was? Remember how many articles there were? Remember how many times Larry Fink went on TV? Remember there was a very high chance of the ETF approval. Not only was there a high chance of the ETF approval, but it was so hyped that the brokers were talking about it. BlackRock was doing education sessions. We had TV adverts. We had bus station adverts. We had Grayscale adverts. We had BlackRock adverts. Very boring BlackRock adverts, but they were BlackRock adverts, right? And the reality is that because everyone was expecting the Bitcoin ETH ETF to be approved, there was a lot of hype and a lot of pent-up demand was waiting for the day that the gates opened. And when the gates actually when the gates actually opened, people went and aped into the Bitcoin ETF, and that is why the Bitcoin ETF was the most hyped up and the most successful ETF launch of all times. We created this excitement. We created this excitement for the asset class. We created TV ads. Brokers played golf with other brokers, telling them about how amazing Bitcoin is. Everybody wanted to be the first to jump into Bitcoin. Now let's flip back to ETH. So everyone's saying, I look lovely, I look great today. I mean, do people want me to give away the Banter bag? Is that what's going on here? So now let's fast forward to the ETH ETF. With the ETH ETF, the expectations have been that the ETH ETF ain't going to get approved. In fact, the whole market said there was a 0% chance that the ETH ETF was going to get approved. There's been no preparations. There's been no excitement. There's been no TV ads. There's been no billboards. There's been nothing. We haven't had time to prepare for this ETF. And the reason is because up until a few days ago, it was a definite no. But then there was the about turn from the SEC. The SEC effectively obviously succumbed to the political pressure. And the Democrats basically said, look, either we're going to continue on this path with Elizabeth Warren and Gary Gensler and follow their agenda and lose the election, or we better do an about turn. And then I'm sure Gary got like a phone call and said, like, listen, you're approving the fucking ETF. Oh, by the way, this is Larry Fink. Okay, thanks, bye. Put the phone down. Okay, so that's what happened. And as a result of that, the problem is that we haven't created that pent-up demand. We haven't created that excitement for ETH as an asset class that we had for Bitcoin. And so what's going to happen when this happens is that what you will get is a situation where you don't have much demand for ETH in the beginning because the marketing has been delayed. The excitement has been delayed. On the other side, you've got a big problem. You've got a massive, massive, massive supply of ETH, which has been locked up, which is now becoming unlocked. And that is the same as GBTC. Grayscale have a thing called ETHE. And this ETHE has, hold on, I think let's just quickly have a look here. What the ETHE, let's see, ETHE, Grayscale, Ethereum, let's have a look here. So the ETHE product has a massive, massive, massive NAV. I think it's got $10.98 billion under management. $10.98 billion of Ethereum under management. Now, when the ETH ETF gets approved, if the Grayscale ETHE does get approved, and by the way, they have filed the 19B4, and we can expect that the approval will happen like the Bitcoin approval happened, the approval happened back then. Then, all of a sudden, these $10 billion, 2.9 million ETH, $10 billion worth of ETH that were that were locked up, like the GBTC, will actually become unlocked and people will start selling them. But unlike the GBTC section, where most of those Bitcoin were actually hedged because people were expecting an ETF approval, in this case, no one hedged because no one expected the ETF approval. And so you're going to have a whole lot of unhedged ETH opening up and starting to flow onto the market. Problem is, you've got no marketing and therefore you've got no demand. And so you've got this huge unlock of supply and you've got zero demand to actually buy it up. And that could create a massive, massive, massive problem for ETH. So that's the first problem that I foresee for ETH. Unlike the Bitcoin ETF where we had this demand and we had BlackRock on TV and we had this demand that was going to absorb the GBTC selling, which only ended very recently, we don't have that for ETH. Now you may look at this and you may say, well, look, GBTC had 20-something billion dollars under management and the ETH's only got $10 billion under management. The problem is that if you look at the market cap of Bitcoin and the market cap of ETH, and you say, okay, well, GBTC had $25 billion out of a market cap of $1 trillion versus $10 billion out of a market cap of $440 million, the numbers actually turn out that the ETH amount of unlocks are actually much more significant than the Bitcoin amount of unlocks. So that's the first tailwind that I think the ETH has to have. The problem is we were caught off guard, we didn't do our marketing, and now we're getting a massive supply shock and we're going to have no one to buy it up. The next thing that we need to look at is how the investment managers actually view ETH. Remember, they view Bitcoin as a digital gold, as a store of value, and it goes into that bucket. But the ETH product is not. The ETH product is a slightly different product. Well, for one, Bitcoin is a store of value, and ETH is a technology, different class of investors. And I guess you can say that right now, technology investments are maybe a little bit more exciting than Bitcoin investments. So maybe a good point towards ETH, although I think ETH is always seen as the second cryptocurrency and not the first cryptocurrency. ETH then has 3 or 4 things which actually work for ETH. The first narrative that actually works for ETH is that ETH is ESG friendly. Remember, ETH doesn't have proof of work. Therefore, it is supposed to be more energy efficient. Therefore, more funds that are prohibited or want to be, what do you call those people that are like all about green, like those environment people, those people that always hold up signs and then fly in private jets? Not Elizabeth Warren, the other people. You know what I'm talking about. So like those Greenpeace people, like rah, 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 only eat vegan. You know what I'm talking about, right? Those people that want to really protect the earth. Anyway, so the one narrative around ETH is that it's more ESG friendly. And ESG is a big deal. I mean, or it was a big deal, right? Because the thing with ESG is that it's not only about the planet, but there's also now a new narrative. I don't know if you guys have been watching this narrative, but this narrative is the fact that what BlackRock believe is that the biggest problem to AI is actually not computing power. It's actually electricity. What BlackRock are saying is that they're saying, look, the world doesn't even have enough electricity to power an AI revolution. And now you add to that Bitcoin, and Bitcoin apparently sucking up electricity. Well, then you got this thing around ETH being eco-friendly. Okay, so great. So ETH scores a goal there where they say, okay, ETH is potentially a more ESG-friendly investment. The second thing about ETH is, remember, ETH actually brings staking rewards. So unlike Bitcoin, where you don't get a staking reward, ETH actually does give you a staking reward. And so for fund managers, the one big difference between Bitcoin and ETH is that you can actually earn a minimum of 4.35% actually staking your ETH, which is great because with Bitcoin, you can't actually earn anything. So if you're a fund manager and you've got two products, one of them is ESG friendly and gives you a staking yield. The other one is not ESG friendly, it doesn't give you a staking yield. Naturally, you may actually go to the one that is not ESG, that is ESG friendly and gives you a staking yield. Kind of like makes sense. The third thing is that, well, Bitcoin is mildly inflationary and ETH is deflationary because ETH has EIP, we burn ETH. I don't remember which EIP. I think it was 1550 or whatever it is, which actually burns ETH. Which EIP was it? 1559, right? So many EIPs. So if you look at it from an investment manager's point of view, they're saying, look, one is a technology, one is a store of value. The one is deflationary, the one is mildly inflationary. The one is ESG friendly, the one is ESG unfriendly. The one gives you staking rewards, the other one doesn't give you staking rewards. So naturally, that's how they're going to be looking at it. Here's the problem though. What the SEC have done is that they have pretty much told them, the issuers, that ETH ETFs will not be allowed to stake ETH tokens. So what you're doing by buying an ETH ETF is you're buying an ETH ETF, but you ain't getting the staking rewards. Now, what are the staking rewards? Well, at a minimum, the staking rewards are about 4%. Okay, so at a minimum, the staking rewards are 4%. The reality is that they do get a lot higher when the network becomes busier, etc. So by buying the ETH ETF, you are immediately losing at least 4%, but probably more realistically 5 to 6%. So that's a huge number. Imagine getting into an investment where you basically say, look, you're basically by investing in this, you're losing 5%. Now you may say, look, they're not losing, they're just not gaining. Problem is that the way that the ETH network is inflationary, the tide continues to rise. Now, if you don't rise as much as the tide, then the problem is that you're drowning. You're the product. It's the same as tokenomics. So the reality is that by removing staking, what the SEC has done is it has made the ETF 5% a year less attractive. Okay, that's big. In investment terms, that's big. If somebody is earning 5% on US dollars and you're holding US dollars and you can't hold US dollars and you can't earn 5%, then holding US dollars is not a good investment. 5% in the traditional world is an absolute fortune. And off the bat, people who invest in the ETH ETF are literally starting off at minus 5% relative to just going to buy a real ETH, which is big. It's massive. To get 5%, these guys have to make a 10% return, which is now it becomes quite a big thing. So when you remove that, you also make the investment a lot less attractive. So now you've got two big problems. The first big problem is that you got the GBTC unlock. The second big problem is they've removed staking, which is a big problem. And the third thing is, remember I said to you, the one's ESG friendly and the other one's not ESG friendly. The truth is the ESG narrative is dead. No one gives a shit about the ESG narrative. The biggest proponents of the ESG narrative was BlackRock, and BlackRock have basically completely abandoned the ESG agenda, right? They don't talk about these ESG funds and stuff like that. So it's a big thing, specifically the staking. I mean, for people who are not buying the ETF, the fact that the ETF will actually take ETH out of circulation will increase the staking rewards for the remaining ETH. So it's a double whammy. The more people buy the ETF, the more the staking rewards go up because more ETH is taken out of circulation. the more they lose. So you get like the more you buy the ETF, the more you actually lose off the bat. That's quite a serious thing. That's quite a serious thing. And these are problems that Bitcoin and the Bitcoin ETF doesn't have. I mean, and just to give you an idea, like 27% of ETH's total supply is staked. That's about 121 billion, which is bigger than Solana's entire market cap. Like, you get what I'm saying to you here. There's a trick. There's a big issue. One, they didn't let us do our marketing. Two, they've removed staking. And by removing staking, they're basically handicapping our ETH ETF. And so that is basically some of the problems that I see with the ETH ETF. So what do I think is going to happen? Do I think that the ETH ETF is going to be a massive launch? Remember that Bitcoin actually set expectations. And we know that the Bitcoin ETF has got something like $15 billion under management. It's been the most successful ETF launch in history. And everyone is now going to be benchmarking the ETH launch to the Bitcoin launch. What happens when the ETH launch doesn't live up to the Bitcoin launch? What happens if we get this scenario where ꞌ𝗏𝗏𝗡 says that the ETH ETFs could attract 10 to 15% of Bitcoin ETF investments even with 20% ETH price surge? In other words, what if we don't get this massive inflow into the ETH ETFs? Now, I know Joe Lubin, who's obviously talking his book, he's the founder of Consensus, he's obviously saying that there is going to be a lot of pent-up demand. And the truth is that I agree with him. I agree with him that there will be pent-up demand, and especially when BlackRock go out there and start talking about tokenization of real-world assets and stuff like that, I do think that over time, we do get a crazy run-up in the ETH ETF. But I think in the beginning, everybody's going to be disappointed. We're going to get the Grayscale tokens flying in. We've got no pent-up demand. And when we start reporting on the ETF races like we did in the beginning when Bitcoin came out, every day we monitor the flows, like this over here, like every day we're looking at these flows. When we start looking at the ETH ETF flows, it's going to be quite disappointing. And the thing is, because we have a frame of reference on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin set the bar so high, no matter what ETH does, it's going to be disappointing. Now, what happens when a token comes onto the market and it's disappointing? It's very, very, very hard for that token to become a high performance, high good token. You think about like an altcoin, right? Imagine you get an altcoin and it comes onto market. Everyone's expecting it to do as well as I don't know, Starknet and get 500 gazillion market, and it launches and it fails. You know how hard it is for that token to repair its reputation in the market? Because price is reputation. And so what I fear is that when the ETH ETF launches and we don't get the big flows, people are going to look at this and go, you know what? ETH's actually Bitcoin's younger, redhead, freckled brother. You know what I mean? Like the redhead, freckled brother that nobody wants to go out with. That's what ETH is, and that's what I'm worried about. Okay, that is what I'm worried about here. So what do I think is going to happen? I think we get a scenario. Why are you laughing at the redhead freckles? Are you racist? Josh. So what do I think happens? I think we get something like this. The ETF gets approved. We get a dip because people go, okay, hold on. The ETF's approved. Now, where are the inflows? Oh, fuck, there are no inflows. Bang, 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 bang. We get down. But I think that the dip will be bigger than the ETF dip. And then I think the world just takes over and we start climbing and we go up here. I think it's not going to be as aggressive as the Bitcoin ETF. I don't see ETH price rallying from Jan to March, so 3 months. I don't see ETH price going up 100% in the next 3 months. I don't see it happening. But maybe I'm wrong, and hopefully I'll be wrong. Doesn't matter. Because in the long term, what I expect BlackRock to start talking about real world assets and tokenization and stuff like that. And when that happens, then I think ETH eventually goes to Valhalla. And that's effectively what's going to happen. So that is my thesis. That is why I think that, quickly, in summary, I think we haven't had time to prepare. I think the ETH outflows are unhedged. I think that they're going to cause a big oversupply in the market. I think there's going to be no one to buy the oversupply because we haven't done our marketing. I think that the fact that they remove staking makes it a little bit less attractive. And therefore, I think that the ETH ETF may be seen as a disappointment because the Bitcoin left us such a high benchmark. But I think in the long term, everything's going to be okay. And I think it's going to do very, very, very well. Maybe not as well as Bitcoin, but it's definitely going to do very, 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 very well. And you can see that Bitcoin is doing very well. Although I do agree with Peter Schiff, where he says, look, I think the biggest loser from the ETH ETF being approved so early is the Bitcoin. And that's because I don't agree with Peter Schiff on much, but he says any money to buy new ETH ETFs will most likely come from existing Bitcoin ETFs or investors who were going to invest only in Bitcoin, now splitting the money between Bitcoin and ETH. Yes, it is Pizza Day. We will talk about Pizza Day towards the end of the show. I also think, 𝗙𝗦𝗢𝗓𝗦𝗜𝗧 basically wrote a thesis here. I'm not going to read you the thesis, but he said, look, the one thing he says, the people actually believe that Bitcoin's victory is preordained and there's no challenger. And now there's a real challenger because there is an ETF. And so I do think we start getting a reversal of the Bitcoin ETH chart. And as I said yesterday, for me, the biggest trade right now, long ETH, short Bitcoin. It's a funding neutral, delta neutral position. In the meantime, though, I do agree that Bitcoin is well into the second stage of inflows. We saw big inflows yesterday, 291 million. That was just for BlackRock yesterday. I think yesterday was 311 million or 305 million. We're definitely going into the second phase of the Bitcoin ETF flows. And so I think that's what happens. I think basically we launch, slightly disappointing. We steal some inflows from Bitcoin, and then the world continues and we start getting other ETFs. I think then we go into getting other ETFs. And then the big question is, what is the next ETF? People start speculating on what is the next ETF. Now, look, some filthy degens believe that the next ETF is going to be a DOGE ETF. I just don't see a world where a meme coin ETF is approved before Solana ETF is approved. Look, I might be wrong, but I just don't see a world where a DOGE ETF gets approved before a Solana ETF gets approved. But hey, I may be wrong. I don't see memes hitting Wall Street in that way, even though if you look, memes have performed really, really, really well. In fact, if you even look today on the bubbles, if the bubbles are still where they were, the bubbles have come slightly down, but 𝗕𝗬𝗕𝗏 was one of the big green bubbles earlier. Now you can see the AI bubbles are starting to wake up. We'll talk about that in a second. And Casper, which was one of Sheldon's trades, also waking up. But we'll go there in a second. But I don't believe that we get a meme ETF that's approved. Even though I do believe that memes are growing in popularity. I don't know if you guys saw this. This is ridiculous. But I mean, it's a sign of the times. This is a real sign of the times where the Biden campaign is hiring a meme manager as the president struggles for support from young voters. So it's not only from young voters, also from crypto voters. He's basically destroyed his support. I think he has become a meme. He says, folks, this couldn't be any more serious. Cryptocurrency executives and oil barons are coming out of the woodwork for Trump. They're rushing $800,000 checks at glitzy events. Now Trump is out raising us. He's raked in 76 million in total from April, over 50 million coming from a single area in Palm Beach. So Biden's complaining that crypto people are donating too much to Trump. And that's why they are doing a huge about turn. They're doing a huge about turn. For me, the craziest thing is I've been here since 2015. And to think that an entire election now revolves around crypto, where the Biden administration has made crypto such a swear word, absolutely unbelievable for me to see. I couldn't be more proud of the crypto community and what we've created. We've created a movement that is so important that presidents are basically rallying around us to try and win favor with us. On the one hand, Elizabeth Warren is building an anti-crypto army. On the other hand, Trump says that he's building a crypto army. You got to choose your fighter. On the one hand, you got President Trump, who in 1 week sparked a 200 billion crypto market rally. He forced the Dems into submission on SAB 121, forced the resignation of the FDIC share, forced the SEC to reverse its course on the ETF approval, and upped FIT21 odds, which we're going to talk about in a second. Also now accepting crypto. I mean, this is the world that we actually live in. This is the reality of where we live in. And as I said, I think it's very, very, very good for crypto. I think that the next ETF that gets approved isn't going to be a Doge or a meme ETF, despite all the memes that are going on. I think the next ETF that's actually going to be approved is the Solana ETF. I think we had a pullback in this ETH SOL chart. Yesterday went down to negative to 47. Now it's back up at 49 almost. And I think this continues because if I look at the fundamentals of Solana, I agree with 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗡𝗦𝗏. Investment manager 𝗙𝗥𝗢𝗡 expect Solana to join the crypto spot ETF wars in 2024. That's exactly what's happening. And if you look at the usage and everything that's happening on Solana, you can't argue that Sol is going to be the next ETF. I just don't believe that it's going to happen. So that is the one thing that's going to happen. But I think what we need is 𝗕𝗟𝗔𝗔𝗓𝗦 to basically drop the case against Coinbase, where he implicates Solana and a whole lot of other tokens as securities. We don't mind if he keeps Cardano as a security, because no one cares. But if it's Solana, they got to remove that for the list. They got to. Who said run for president? Who said that run for president? There was someone who said that. There was someone who said it was the Vietnamese girl. No, it was the Vietnamese girl. No, it was the Vietnamese girl. She said it. Who was it? Just let me see who it was. Yes, it was Han Lee. So Han Lee, if Han Lee is subscribed to Banter, and if Han Lee is subscribed to Banter Plus, and if she has any exchange account, Han Lee is the winner of our Banter bags. I've just given Han Lee the Banter bags. Congratulations. If you're a subscriber to Banter and Banter Plus, I see you here every single day, you've just won yourself the Banter bags. I really hope you were subscribed. I really, really hope you were subscribed. Anyway, back to the alpha. So, we need 𝗕𝗟𝗔𝗓𝗦 or Biden to put pressure on 𝗕𝗟𝗔𝗓𝗦 to remove the case against Coinbase. And if you look at the Coinbase chart, you got to remember one thing. Coinbase is the custodian in 5 of the 8 ETH ETF applications, right? So what I think the market's not really seeing is, hold on a second, look at the weekly RSI, stochastic RSIs on Coinbase. At the bottom, just turned, about to cross. What does that tell you? It tells you there could be a run-up in Coinbase. And it makes perfect sense. Why? Because, number one, it seems like the SEC is starting to become a little bit more friendly towards crypto. And I think that they may, give up. I don't know. Huntley, if you are subscribed, congratulations to both. You've won the Banter bags. We will obviously verify everything with you. Email us at giveaways@cryptobanter.com. We'll make sure that everything is correct. I really hope that you've won. So, Coinbase has the ETH ETF approval. They are the custodians. They may drop the case. Remember that in a bull market, Coinbase make a lot more revenue from trading. Now remember, when the ETH ETF gets approved, the ETH price goes up, the Bitcoin dominance goes down. We start an alt season, right? Because the flow of money is Bitcoin, ETH, alts, right? And so Coinbase's revenue goes up. So Coinbase may actually be in line for a massive run. Let's just recap why. The charts are telling us a story. The charts are telling us the stochastic RSI is crossed or just about to cross, and it's on the bottom on the weekly, which is exactly like the ETH chart. The next thing is that they are the custodians for the 5 out of the 8 ETF applications. The next thing is that they're about to potentially win the case against the ETF, against the SEC. Then on top of that, we could get some increased price rises and a bull market, and Coinbase's fees actually go up. And then the last part, which is the cherry on top, it could actually even be base summer. And if we do get base summer, remember Coinbase is the custodian of all the transaction fees. So to me, even though the first time I told you guys to buy Coinbase was at $40, now at $223, guys, I'm saying we should probably take a position in Coinbase. And look, just every time that the RSIs have been at the bottom and crossed, look at the chart. I mean, this is for your viewing pleasure. Up 70%, up 155%, up 97%, up 47%, up 121%. You have been warned. The chart's given you exactly the same pattern. What you do from now on is up to you. I'm going to average. My first Coinbase buy was at $38. My next Coinbase buy was at $77. Today, I'm letting you know after the show, I'm phoning my broker. I'm getting more Coinbase. Why am I phoning my broker, you ask? Because I can't trade on my phone I can trade through Interactive Brokers. All right, let's talk about regulation and legislation very quickly, because now you've got 𝗕𝗟𝗔𝗓𝗦 screaming. He is now holding on for dear life. He wants to keep his power, or not the power that he thought he had. Problem is that there's this act called FIT21 Act. And what is the FIT21 Act? The FIT21 Act, basically what it does is, it does this. It removes the power, the the power that the SEC, under the proposed legislation, the CFTC would regulate digital assets if the associated blockchain or digital ledger is both functional and decentralized. On the other hand, the SEC would oversee assets as securities if the blockchain is functional but not decentralized. So it puts in great framework for crypto regulation, but it takes away the power from the SEC, which they didn't actually have. And this is actually going up for discussion today, and maybe even we'll get a vote today. If it passes this vote, then there's going to be another vote, and then it'll go up to the president, and then maybe, we're going to destroy 𝗕𝗟𝗓𝗕𝗦. And if we do, it makes perfect sense for this narrative that right now we have where the Democrats have basically turned against Elizabeth Warren and 𝗕𝗟𝗓𝗕𝗦 like sheep to the slaughter. They basically said, look, we needed you at the time because we needed donations and we needed the corrupt banks to give us money, but now we have to slaughter you. We have to let you go because it saves the vote and saves the party, and maybe that way the old man Joe Biden can actually serve another term. I doubt it though. I think it's finished. I think he's the death knell. Anyway, let's go to the next part of the show, which is altcoins. The altcoin section. I know that's why you came. You came for the altcoin section. You can see two bubbles which are actually really running today. One is GALA, because remember they got hacked, and then the hacker actually returned the money. So they got hacked, $200 million, hacker returned the money. Then you got AIOZ running. Can anyone in the chat tell me why AIOZ is running? Josh, can you tell me why is AIOZ running?
I cannot, sir.
You cannot? You haven't been paying attention in class, sir. Okay, I will give 10,000 GUMMY to whoever tells me why AIOZ is running. Correct. 𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗕𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓𝗓 earnings. NVIDIA earnings usually cause, they're like the most exciting earnings events of all time. Okay, now remember, NVIDIA hit its highest closing price before its most highly anticipated announcement ever. So we could get an AI run. Remember, if there is an AI run, this is Run's picks for the AI run. Run's picks for the AI run. That's quite like it works. Come on, that does work. So, Near Protocol, because Jensen Huang touched Ilya's leg in that meme. I'll show you the meme. So, let me show you the meme, just so we're all on the same page. Jensen, Ilya, meme. And you see like he touches his leg. Where is that meme? Jensen Huang, Ilya, meme. There we go. You remember the meme where he touched the guy he touched Ilya's leg, and everyone like said, okay, I don't know if we can find the meme. Anyway, so this is my list. I'm going to drop it. Render. I did say AIOZ, Akash, Pocket, Base AI, and Claw. Those are my AI things. Yeah, this is the AI list if we get good NVIDIA earnings. Keep an eye on these if the NVIDIA earnings are good or if you expect the NVIDIA earnings are very good. Remember, NVIDIA, if it does badly, then the market collapses tonight. So you could get a double whammy on this. Like you could think, shit, I'm going to make money. NVIDIA underperforms, and then you get basically screwed. But I think it'll be okay. Other altcoin picks. So I don't know if you guys are in the Discord. For those people that are in the Discord, remember, we called in the birdie calls in the Discord, we called drift at 31 cents. Now, the Irishman, who is our head of research, he basically faded my call. And today he's watching this and he's going, if only I had listened to Run. If only I had listened to Run. If only I'd listened to Run, I would have been a rich, filthy rich millionaire. The thing is that the Irishman's not married, so he doesn't need wife-changing money. So it's fine. He's still got a chance. We also, in the Discord, we're also starting a portfolio competition, frontrunner monthly portfolio competition, massive prizes in the portfolio competition. Let's just go here. How do you get into the Discord? We have decided that we are taking in people on the 1st of May. So on the 1st of June. On the 1st of June, we are taking in another cohort of people. How do you become part of that cohort? You go to this link over here, which has been put at the bottom, which should be at the top actually, right? And you click here. And this one here. And you sign up on the waiting list. Now, the first 100 people on the waiting list are going to get in and the rest are not going to get in. So go and sign up as quickly as possible. Then, remember, that if you want gummy airdrops, right now, the average gummy airdrop for a Bybit user is over $300. You have exactly 9 days to sign up, deposit $100, 8 days to sign up, deposit $100, and you automatically get your share of 15 million gummy, which is $2.25 million. Okay, there's more, there's $2.25 million. Guys, you have 8 days to sign up. Remember, if you sign up and you deposit $100 and you trade $500, you automatically get $100. You want $100 today? You know what to do. Okay, I've told you what to do. Otherwise, do all of these things if you want to get gummy. If you want to get more gummy, the airdrops are coming very, 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 very soon. The last thing you can also do is you can go to DBridge. I will do a DBridge giveaway in a couple of seconds. I just want to remind you also that ZK Sync is launching. We will make a big noise about ZK Sync when it does launch. ZK Sync is the new layer 2 on Ethereum, which is coming onto the market at a $13 billion valuation. We have a sponsor that we'll talk about as well. It's called ZeroLend. ZeroLend is a lending platform on ZK Sync, but we will do a deep dive into ZK Sync. We just won't do it today because we are out of time. I also want to remind you, for those of you who have been following Arweave, which is our biggest bag, by the way, specifically if you're in front runners. So Arweave made a massive announcement. They said, we made a major acquisition recently to rapidly accelerate the growth of the perm web. Arweave, plus the AI computer, the AO computer, plus AgentFi, plus on the 6th of the 6th at 11 EST, they're making another announcement. So don't say that I didn't tell you about the announcement. There's a massive announcement coming out, and I think that this announcement is going to be big. In fact, I don't think me and the founder have been communicating. And so I think it's going to be very big. So I think position yourself for the airdrop. Okay, lastly for today, remember, if you, I need you guys to help me and help you get to the #1 spot in terms of the most effective DBridge referral for the airdrop. Right now, I'm number 22 in the world of the airdrop, and that's big. How do you help me and I help you? Well, you use DBridge. So there is a link below, as you can see. Here's the link, DBridge. You click this link over here. And then all you do is you can transfer money from any chain to any chain without going to a centralized exchange. Now let me make this like very simple for you. Josh, can we try and is there any way we can get Solana addresses? Maybe we can do a Sol giveaway. Guys, drop Sol addresses. Let's see what happens. Let's drop Sol address. But instead of just putting a number, say my Sol address is. Let's see what happens. My Sol address is. Just see what happens. Just see what happens. Maybe we can get some addresses here. Maybe we can get some addresses. So, what is DBridge? You ever been in a position where you want to trade on Solana, but you only have money on ETH? Have you ever been in that position where you want to like trade on Base, but you only have money on ETH? And then you think to yourself, shit, what am I going to do? Do I have to go to an exchange, deposit the ETH, swap the ETH for USDT? Takes like, and then they need 20 approvals on the way out, blah, 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 blah. You don't need that. You can just go to DBridge. And on DBridge, it is so fucking simple. You can select, I want to move ETH from the Ethereum network, and I want to move 0.05, which is, and I want to move it to USDC. I want to move it to USDC on the Solana network. Okay, so let's go to Solana. Now what you've seen is I've basically said, look, move 0.05 ETH, which is $182, from my wallet on ETH to my wallet on Solana. And now all I need to do is put in an address. Now, Josh, do we have an address? Not working because YouTube is very smart. So tomorrow, I'll basically show you how in 4 seconds, tomorrow we'll do it on my Twitter. I'll show you how in 4 seconds you can do it. But until then, if you want to swap, just go to DBridge. Help me help you. You will get Gummy airdrops, you will get DBridge airdrops, and tomorrow you may actually get money into your Sol account. Listen, guys, sending you lots of love. Let me know in the chat if any of you are going to be in Monaco for the Grand Prix. I'm going to be there. So if anybody's going to be there, maybe we can hang out. Maybe we can do cool shit together. Otherwise, I will see you guys again tomorrow. Until then, trade well, my friends.